order. If you could please rise and find the flag, we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And Rob, I think we need to go live now. Okay. We have a couple presentations tonight. Our first presentation is going to be SEI DGA, our capital project update. So gentlemen, if you're ready, I know we are.
We're ready. So for those of you that came on the tour, thanks. You get a little bit of an idea of what we're up against on the project, but tremendous amount of work's been done to date, so we're very positive about it. We're going to do a quick overview. John has a copy of this if anybody wants to go back and take a look after the fact and check out a detail. You also have your monthly report coming in about a week or so. You'll have a detailed schedule in that as well. So with that, we'll get started on just a quick update. As you see, this is kind of how we organize the work. These are the areas that we're attacking, from first priority nurse's office, almost all of these in the elementary school, to that bus loop entrance on the backside, toilet rooms, then all the room renovations, cafeteria kitchen, main office, and then on through some of the auditorium work at the high school, and the bus garage will go into the fall, and the site work. We should have most of it done in the next month or so, save for a few plants probably. But you can see they've made tremendous progress on the site. So that's kind of how we're organizing and tracking all the different parts of the project. Budget-wise, so I think you've seen this overview of the budget. You saw that our contingency was originally very low, and we added to that through some of the value engineering ideas. So this gives you an idea where we're at contingency-wise right now, the 798. And our intent is to try to save enough of that contingency to do the toilet room in the high school at the tail end of the project. Once we've opened up all the walls, seen what all the unforeseens are, we're hoping that we can hold together enough dollars to finish that one component that's really a big part of what we'd like to accomplish.
What were we hoping to have for that, as far as, you say we're up to 790 or 7?
That's, I think our original was around 9. I have to go back and look, but we're pretty close. We're within 100,000 of that. And again, we're watching every dollar, but there are changes that are coming up. So again, for those on the tour, you saw in the back of the building, we ran into a soft spot in the pavement area. Years and years and years it's failed. What there probably is organics underneath that pavement, and it never was really solid. So anytime you repaved it, it just failed again in that same location. Well, this time we didn't leave the existing pavement in place. We're going to go in this week with our testing agency and get all of that material out and get a solid base underneath that pavement area so it's done properly once and for all. Again, those are things that come up kind of unforeseen, that while we're doing the work is the time to do it. So we're kind of balancing what absolutely has to get done versus the dollars we're trying to save in contingency throughout the course of the project. And again, there aren't a lot of, typically you'd have a lot of owner requests that happen during the, well, while you're here, can you do this or do that? And we're not seeing a lot of that on this project. We're basically just taking care of things that absolutely have to get done. So really monitoring that contingency conservatively. So typically, when we manage, we say we manage 4 simple things. It's safety, quality, cost, and schedule. And those are the things I wanted to just quickly review with you tonight. Safety, no lost time incidents to date on the project. other than obvious reasons that we like everyone to go home to their families every night, it's also important for the school from a liability perspective that, you know, Mike is on site, making sure everyone's living up to their safety plan, that we have safe work areas, we're not putting anyone in danger. Obviously, when kids come back, that's even more important. And we talked on our tour tonight about maintaining separations and building hard walls between work areas and student areas. And that's, again, job one, making sure that we have a safe work environment and a safe learning environment. Next issue, quality really, you know, I came to you a few months ago and told you I think you really need to award this project, that we have good contractors. I think we're seeing that bear out. They're all dealing with a lot of the challenges in this construction environment, which are real and are having a real impact. But with respect to the quality of the workmanship that's going into this project, we haven't seen any issues so far. So that's a really positive piece. Cost, just an update on kind of where we're at. So this is through August 1st, about 14% build of the total contracts. Change orders, you'll see there's a negative 472,000. But again, those are all those value engineering ideas that then got written into change orders and added to our contingency. So as you can see, our contingency currently is about 746,000. So we've already used about 50,000 of that contingency, that almost 800,000 that we had set aside. So that's kind of where we're at, contingency-wise.
Out of those change orders, a lot of it seemed like it was, we were doing HVAC stuff, and even it seemed like there was some lighting changes.
There wasn't much. The only lighting change, there was some lighting that we were experiencing difficulty getting here in time. So we paid a small, I think it was about a $1,400 or $1,500 upcharge to get the shipping expedited and to get the lights here so we could have those classrooms and areas all buttoned up. But you may have been looking at some deduct changes from the electrical. Most of the additive changes to date have been site. And again, the nature of those are, like I said, the one area in the back that we're going to fix while we're there. There were some other ones that had to do with existing pavement that really needed to be pulled out and shouldn't have stayed in place. And so we went ahead and did those. But total impact at this point is about 50,000. And again, our target is to try to keep that amount and get those bathrooms done. So, so far I think we're doing pretty good. And you've seen kind of the intensity of the renovation and how deep we were into those buildings and the structural parts of those buildings. A lot of steel work, a lot of concrete work. And so in the next few weeks, you'll see a lot of that going back together. So that's typically where you run into costs. You open up a wall, well, we didn't know that was here, whether it's electrical stuff or plumbing or whatever. I think in the elementary school, we're through a lot of that stage where we've opened up and found things that we didn't know about. And for the most part, we've been able to address those, and there haven't been huge impacts really at all. So we were a little bit lucky in that respect. Not so lucky with respect to getting materials and getting things delivered. And so the next page is about schedule. And so here are the areas that we walked through. Again, as I said on our walkthrough, the entire elementary school is going to be kid ready for the start of school. So that is corridors clean, separation between work areas and students. The entire place will be a safe place for the students to achieve their learning. There are going to be areas that aren't completed by the beginning of school. And again, a lot of that is just the time it takes to get materials on site. And some of the delays, you know, where we would typically see windows and window systems 6 to 8 weeks, they've been 12 to 15 weeks. We made a selection on some tile for one of the bathrooms. We've made the selection based on today it's in stock and we can get it right away. We got notified last Thursday, we can't get the tiles until September 3rd. So again, in those instances, we're telling the contractor on September 3rd, you're gonna have a truck in Maryland at the tile wholesaler, you're gonna be picking up the tile and driving it back and getting going on those bathrooms. So there are some things that are out of our control. There are some things where we're having an impact, and doing the best we can to mitigate some of these circumstances. So here's where we're at. Again, we talked about those different areas in the elementary school and how we're tracking them. So nurse's office, space usable by the start of school. There's a fan coil unit that needs to get installed. That'll happen after a few weeks. And then there's a shower component to the nurse's office, and that was like a 12-week lead item. And that will be in and installed third week of October.
And to point out on that, not only do I watch day to day, but if I don't believe something somebody's telling me, I called one of my other subcontractors that I've dealt with throughout the years, told me the same thing for that shower unit. So I knew I wasn't getting lied to.
Next one down, classrooms. Again, all those areas will be ready September 8th, ready for kids. Flooring. So we have this kinetics flooring that's going in a large number of those rooms. That's not coming in until the end of September. So that's going to get installed over the course of B shift at night. Move furniture out, do floor in one room, put furniture back in, march down through and get them all done. We see that install being complete around the beginning of October. The toilet rooms, we talked about those. We anticipated those being ready. That's the one where the tile got delayed, and we just found out last Thursday on that one. But again, we've been working with Lynn at the elementary school. We have plans in place how all this stuff's going to happen, how the school's going to be ready for kids.
So if those tiles don't come in on September 3rd, we can't send our truck to Maryland. What is the contingency plan? What bathrooms are we talking about here?
We're at the mercy of the suppliers right now. That's all I can say.
It seems like a high degree of likelihood it won't be on September 3rd. I mean, anybody writes down a project, a year, a date, and it's September 10th. So if it's September 10th, what's the plan?
As soon as we get it, to get going.
The bathrooms won't be usable, or?
They won't be until the tile's in.
What bathrooms are those?
The G, 7 and 8 bathrooms.
It's
Yeah.
the fifth and sixth grade ones,
Fifth
the old
grade
fifth and sixth grade
bathrooms?
ones.
Okay, so there's usable bathrooms in the building?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
What's the
You just gotta walk
plan
over
for
the
those
fire.
kids?
So we're gonna have a wall built over the bathrooms at the G hallway for third, fourth, and fifth. We're gonna see if first and second shift can work on tile when they get here. Those bathrooms are going to have, those kids are gonna have first priority to the Hornet wall in the front of the school where we always use for like the volleyball games.
Mhm.
Those big game bathrooms are gonna have the third, fourth, and fifth for priorities. And then our RTI specialists all have bathrooms, so when they're in RTI classes, when they have gym class, the locker room is available. So there are other spaces that they can use, but that big bathroom is just not gonna be available for us yet.
We've tried to err on the side of, again, being conservative. It's always better to underpromise over deliver on this stuff. And again, this is what we know right now.
It's just a big inconvenience, and I get you do understand that, but it's,
Yep.
you know, it's travel time, so kids are losing time in instruction. There's, you know, supervision, that when you send a kid down there, you hope that they make it there and back without any trouble. It's frustrating to say the least. But it doesn't seem as if there's a way to rectify that other than going to Home Depot.
You're not gonna get it at Home Depot.
Yeah, the tile is.
Not enough of it.
And again, we made a switch probably a month ago, 5 weeks ago, to this
And that
tile.
was supposed to be here.
Yeah.
That
Right,
tile was
that's
supposed
why
to
we
be
made
here.
the switch to this
That
tile.
was a switch in hopes to
So it's not like we
have
didn't
to
see
do
the
this.
problem coming. Saw the problem coming, made the switch, told we were all set, and then last week, what what we told you is not true. So, to your point, I understand the frustration, and you're kind of, we're doing our best to see around the corner, see what's coming, see what's going to be a problem. We're taking the steps to address those issues, and then still coming up short on some of this stuff. So again, Lynn's been unbelievably cooperative. We've been working as a team to make sure that,
Safety of the kids.
yep.
And the kids are back in.
and the functionality of as much space as soon as we can get it. Mike is pushing on these guys every day for productivity and getting ample amounts of, another thing we're seeing in our business, and I don't think we've had too much trouble with it at this district yet, is just the workforce. And any of you that are out there can see it, you know, whether it's restaurants or any of these places trying to get people to work, it's just, there's a shortage of workforce.
I could throw 1,000 guys at this job. Without materials, means nothing.
But we haven't had
And this is
that,
suppliers, it's not the contractors, this is suppliers.
we haven't had the issue with enough labor on site yet,
Exactly.
which is good.
We're running 50 guys a day right now.
And I'm seeing it, I'm in 4 other districts right now, and I'm seeing it in other places where they send one flooring person out to the job. You know, we've got tens of thousands of square feet to get ready before school starts. So, again, doing the best we can on all this stuff. Bus loop entrance, again, that storefront will be in middle of October. Until then, we have temporary aluminum doors, we have a window for whoever's gonna monitor that door to be able to cover that access point and to have a working entrance there. Cafeteria Kitchen, again, for those of you on the tour, you saw the nature of how intense that work and how heavy that work is. That will be usable by the end of September. Again, working with Lynn. Prior to that, I think last year you did breakfast in the classrooms, and you're gonna continue that practice. And this year, we're gonna use half the gym for cafeteria space until, again, end of September, when that space is usable.
Correct.
Could you speak to that a little bit more, Lynn? You gave us good explanation when we were over there. So how's that gonna look, cafeteria time for?
So we're going to use Andrea's side of the gym because it's closer to the bathrooms and it's the main hallway, so that when Mary and her crew have to cook over here and transport all the food down, it's a straight shot. And Mike and AJ have assured us that all of the equipment in the trailers are going to be moved in a way that that's going to be easy for our guys. Load, unload all of the food. Christine and I are going to work and watch closely that first day of school when we don't have UPK and K, how that looked and how that felt with the personnel we have on staff. If we have to add additional people for the next couple weeks, we will. We've got a couple subs that we can reach out to and get them on staff so that we still have the proper supervision, but we can still get the food back and forth appropriately as well. Andrea and Corey have been fantastic. They have rearranged some of their plans so they can be outside when possible. UPK will stay on Corey's side of the gym so that she can establish the routines and structure. Jordan and Justin have been fantastic to make sure that the fitness center is going to be completely cleaned out and usable. So if we do have a rainy day or the weather isn't perfect, there is an additional space for them to use as well.
So there will not be lunches in classrooms, right?
The lunches will all be on Andrea's side of the gym. We're going to have it set up as a cafeteria. So volleyball has been displaced to this building so that we don't have to ask our guys to empty out, move everything. There's just a lot of organization that we didn't feel was necessary at this point to add to their plates. And Jessica has been fantastic about volleyball being over here and not an issue.
Okay.
So the bus loop going back one, that you're saying that's ready to go for an open day of school?
Yep, they're gonna start, they start paving, that's all paved. They're gonna start paving from bus garage over this way tomorrow. And I think they're gonna just keep paving until everything is done, 100%,
So
so.
they're dropping back next week, around Tuesday, Wednesday, and starting the top coat with, at the bus loop, putting your top coat on everything, working on down through again. Meanwhile, on Thursday, the striping guys will be here to stripe all that area, the front parking lot of the elementary, and keep moving down. It's one domino effect, it's going that way.
So all the parking will be done for the opening day of school?
You won't have your plantings, you won't have your grass growing, but site was always scheduled to be done 10/29. You won't have your swing set behind, that's being relocated behind the elementary school. There was some changes there that had to happen, but site work will be complete 10/29.
Curbs were finished today.
Curbs are all done today. Sidewalk should be following close to the end of next week. Every sidewalk that has to be poured there.
So then for opening day, how are we gonna, what entryway are we gonna be using? Is it gonna be the back bus loop entryway for kids to get in and out of the school?
Yeah,
For parent drop-off?
yeah, that's not changing. The bus loop is the entryway now.
You're gonna have the.
Right, but is that
loop.
entryway gonna be ready?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
so I'm gonna reroute my 5th and 4th graders. We're still going to have kids get dropped off in the parent loop. I'm gonna have the doors assigned like we did last year,
Yeah.
because that was really nice. The 4th and 5th graders are just gonna go down to E hallway and avoid coming into the main entrance. That's really gonna only be used as an exit for an emergency until we can get more of the work done. And then the bus loop will be used, and the kids will come into their doors and assigned doors without any issues. And Rob and I are working on a video tomorrow to explain and show everybody, because the letters just aren't gonna be enough detail, so we're gonna give you a tour.
Thank you, that'll be good.
And that was always, the main entrance and the main office was always slated on from day one, 10/8. So,
Yeah,
How much of that work on there was originally supposed to be done before?
The G bathrooms is probably the biggest thing.
And the
That's the
cafeteria-
biggest shocker for us.
The cafeteria was supposed to be done.
The plan was to have the kitchen part of the cafeteria done by the start of school, and then the cafeteria seating area was gonna be a couple weeks into the school year. So the cafeteria seating area has slipped a couple weeks, and those G bathrooms have slipped 2 or 3 weeks as well with the tile. But those are the two major impacts operationally.
So all the other stuff that we were going over, like the temporary doors and stuff like that, that
Was
was
always
always
part of it.
scheduled as
Yep.
that.
Yeah, it's just because we got out to bid so late, and most of these things, whether it's doors, door frames, the glass and glazing, all those things are 8, 10, 12 weeks. You know, which is our entire, usually the summer construction period is about 10 weeks. So you can see even if we ordered something at the very beginning of the summer, you're still not getting it until into the fall period.
You had the bus garage on there too also, and that's 1124. Is that none of the bus garages?
It's just, it's always been the next step. After the elementary school, we move to the bus garage. And then in the spring, we'll start coming and looking for opportunities to get high school, middle school started so that we can get a jump on the second summer, which is always middle school, high school plan for that.
That's-
Although
they
we
can
did jump
use
into the
bus garage
auditorium.
till 1124?
no, they can use the whole bus garage the whole time we're there.
Okay.
We're only doing 2 bathrooms there, remodeling the
Okay.
bathrooms and a break room, and then some trench drains.
Right.
Gotcha. So just the areas that you're working in aren't available till then, they can still use the rest
Oh,
of the
yeah,
bus garage.
oh, definitely. Yep.
Len, with the kids who ride their bikes to school in September still, is that going to be affected, the back of the building, how they usually ride behind the high school and the
So they're
elementary?
gonna follow all the new sidewalks and stay in the front.
They're gonna see in the
They'll go
front.
in front of the bus garage, all those new
Like
sidewalks, and come over and
Like
cross
that.
on that big fancy island.
Oh, yeah.
The bridge
Yes,
island,
the
I'm not
bridge.
sure what our kids are gonna call it yet.
What's
But
that?
they'll cross there, their bikes will still stay there, and then, Kim and I and Rosie are gonna be located in the old computer lab.
Mhm.
So we're gonna show families how to get to us if you have a dental appointment or early release, things like that.
Okay.
Jordan.
Do bike racks need to relocate?
The bike rack was always, we had a couple, and it was only at the front.
We'll make
We don't
sure
know
that
where they
those are
went.
in the right place before school starts as well.
Yeah. Yeah, they go on, the B hall side of the front entrance, not where the sidewalk is, the other side.
Anything else, guys? Thank you again.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for your patience. It's I'm sure a sticky process for everyone to understand, but we're pushing hard and trying to do the best for you that we can.
Thank you.
Thanks, Peter.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next presentation is from Mark Massey. He's gonna talk about the plug power pilot agreement.
Not sure where you want me to probably right here. Let me just start this up. Should be on camera if you're right there.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having me come out here. Oops, sorry. Didn't mean to hit that. We are in the final stages with some of the final documentation with Plug Power that's looking to acquire 30 acres at the stamp site to build their green hydrogen facility. They will basically take water, split the oxygen and hydrogen atoms, take the hydrogen gas, cool it down to liquefy it into a liquid hydrogen that can then be used in fuel cells that are currently being utilized in forklifts in Amazon, Home Depot, Walmart, large warehouses like that. It's much more efficient, no fumes, runs very well. So I do have that you can keep here if anybody has questions. This is just a fact sheet, question and answers about the project itself, what they're doing, what they make, what they're planning on doing. So as part of that project, there are two components. One is a pilot agreement that will be put in place, and then the other is, I think it's an education benefit agreement that is being entered into with the school as well, which I think is on the agenda. So the pilot agreement will be a 20-year fixed dollar payment. The school will receive $308,368 under the pilot, and then the school will also have a 20-year education benefit agreement in which it will receive $357,000 a year as well. So the school will receive total payments of $665,368 annually for 20 years. So I think the question had been asked, what were the property taxes being paid on the properties prior to them coming off the tax rolls? So I've been maintaining a spreadsheet, and I've kind of frozen some of the assessment values in there. Some of the houses that have been acquired and since demolished, their assessed value has been drastically reduced since they've been demolished. I've still been holding them at their assessed value at the time of acquisition. Some of the parcels have been split up as well, but I held those assessed values at what they were. So the property taxes that were being generated off of those was about $64,000 a year. So even if you were to say that all those parcels were off the tax rolls for 10 years, which probably not all of them were, some of them were, the year one payment is about 10x. So that kind of gets you whole, so to speak, if you're thinking that way. And then you're going to get that 10x payment for another 19 years after. So they are currently going through site plan approval process with the town of Alabama right now. They will not acquire the property until they get all the necessary approvals from site plan approval, all necessary permits, all legal agreements, including the agreement here this evening as well.
When would,
When
would the payment actually, when they start construction or when they actually start operations?
So I think I'd have to go back and check the agreements. It would start usually when they start operations. So usually March 1st is the taxable status date. Whenever any kind of improvements get done, March 1st is usually when new things get added to the assessed rolls. So more than likely it would be it would be September of 2022 or 2023. I'm not sure which one, because it'll be based on the school payment.
So it'd have to be 23, because I mean, there's no way they'd start construction and be operation by.
They're saying they want to be by the end of next year, but we'll see. So it may be September of 2023. It should be defined in the agreement.
And how do you arrive at the numbers, the split between the pilot and the educational agreement?
So we had just kind of tried to come up with a way to do that. Pilots, we know sometimes are difficult with the tax cap formula and how that works. So we also tried to take a look at what some of the impacts might be to try and free up some of that money to be utilized better for educational purposes. Obviously right now they're looking at about 30 employees on site, 68 total. So the other 38 are going to be drivers, which would probably just need a CDL license. So, but as STAMP obviously ramps up, and we do have a lot of activity now, educational resources are going to be absolutely instrumental to the success of the STAMP site in being able to create and train a workforce for the companies that are going to locate there. So finding ways to get the school money to be able to be more flexible, to utilize towards a lot of those resources and training kids and educating kids to be able to work there is kind of what we had kind of come up with.
So that 375, I don't go against our cap, right? That's like a
Part of that's the pilot, which was the
Pilot
three,
tax cap.
308, 307.
But the
308.
educational
308.
piece doesn't.
ECA is outside of that.
Mhm.
What was that, Christine? What did you say?
The ECA is outside of the tax cap calculation.
Right, because then that could be put in a reserve that where we have more ability to, more discretion to use, right, on our
I don't
end.
even know that needs to go into reserve, right? I mean, you can just spend it
Correct.
annually.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Correct. It'll be on the budget, on the revenue side of the budget, looking at that piece of it.
But there's a lot of flexibility though with that, right? More
And
so
don't
than.
handcuff you long term.
No, there's no terms in there that handcuff us into any, spending it in any single manner. You know, I know we had some budget conversations about having that available to use to maybe start funding some, you know, refunding the capital reserve that was used to fund this project. But, you know, it's fun, we have flexibility, which is a better way of doing it. If you have a 600, and you saw that when I showed you during the budget workshops, how the impact of that tax cap, or the pilot payments impact that,
Right, when
that
it
swing.
falls off.
And when it falls off, how do you recover that? Do you go out to your taxpayers and say, hey, I need to raise our tax levy by 10%? We don't want to have to do that, so this kind of softens it.
How long has Plug Power been in existence?
They've been around for about 20 years. They just are in the process of finalizing, renovating an existing facility up in Rochester where they're going to make what they call the electrolyzers. So they're going to make the equipment in Rochester that they're going to utilize in this facility to split the water and oxygen, or the water and hydrogen out of water, the oxygen and hydrogen out of water. They're also working on building, I think, 5 or 6 more of these plants across the country. There are some test cases out there right now of over-the-road trucks utilizing hydrogen fuel. I think the long-term goal is for companies like Amazon and Walmart to use tractor trailers that utilize hydrogen. It's less weight than electric, so it should work better. Plus, it would eliminate the need of those tractor trailers of having to go fuel up. If they've got the hydrogen refueling stations at all the warehouses, they can just go warehouse to warehouse and not only fill the tractor trailers up with product, but then also fuel up their tractor trailers themselves.
Any other questions? Mark, thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Mark.
Do you need to stick around, or we good?
No, I'm sure we'll be in touch. We'll meet soon.
You've got my address, so thank you very much.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
All right, last presentation, and I don't know if it's just Mrs. Demoy, Mr. Schlagenoff, or the whole gang that's over there with
have a whole gang.
You guys have a crew. I don't know if it's a gang or a crew or a consortium. Okay.
So this has really been a collaborative effort between the parents and the student athletes. We wanted to bring to you a proposal to start indoor track at Oakfield for this upcoming school year. So in this presentation, there's several times that I reference different numbers and stuff as far as sports. I have used the 2019-2020 school year to get those numbers because the sports seasons last year, although we did a great job of making it as normal as possible, I think numbers didn't really truly reflect things. So prior to last year, we were lucky enough that Batavia had allowed us to send 4 athletes to participate with them in their indoor track program. The selection for that had been based on the athletes being highly committed to the sport and competing at a high level, be that sectionals or states. And then Mr. Schlagenhoff made that final decision. So with the pandemic this year, Batavia kind of took a step back from that and didn't want any outside athletes coming to the school. Completely understand. But anytime you take a step back, it makes me a little bit nervous. You know, is this the end of it, or will it resume? And quite honestly, allowing only 4 athletes to compete, that's limiting us.
So you might ask, why should OA add indoor track? Over the past 11 years, OA has continued to build a very successful and competitive cross-country and track program. The lack of offering indoor track to more of our student athletes is becoming a missing piece for our program's continued success. More schools, including most recently Pembroke High School, that we compete with on a league and sectional league level, have added indoor to their schools. When we start our outdoor track season, our athletes are now beginning their formal training and coaching 4 months behind other schools.
There's a definite interest in indoor track. 2 years ago when we were sending the 4 athletes, there's that sign-up sheet outside the nurse's office, and athletes knew that there were only 4 spots. We had 18 kids sign up for those 4 spots. By adding indoor track, we would allow more student athletes an opportunity to participate in a winter sport. Taking last year out of it, there is a drop-off typically in winter sport participation. So in fall sports, you had about 148, with 36 of those being just cross-country runners. And then winter, the number of student athletes drops to 77. And then it increases again to 131 in the spring, with 80 of those student athletes participating in track. Offering a winter sport would allow more students to stay active, engaged in school, and out of trouble during the tough Western New York winter months.
The cost to start indoor track, we fully recognize that the budget is very tight this year. There is a very low cost, however, to start the indoor track program at OA. No cost involved for equipment or uniforms. The cost would include coaching, transportation to the meets, and joining the league.
We have heard that there might be some possible concerns, so we've tried to address some of those. These are just some concerns we thought might come up. Indoor track might take away from other winter sports. Other parents might look to come to the board to add additional sports to our selection, or just the increased injury or risk from some student athletes, and this would just be a handful participating in 3 consecutive running seasons.
So the first issue you might think of is indoor track may take away from other winter sports. Basketball requires a very specific skill set, and these athletes start at a very young age. A lot of times it's 3rd grade youth basketball. Those athletes that are currently committed to swimming or basketball will likely continue with those sports. There is also the option for dual participation for our student athletes.
As far as other parents looking to Oakfield to add other sports, we fully recognize that this might happen, but indoor track is a perfect complement to 2 very successful other sports that are currently offered, being cross country and track. And with the equipment we currently have from outdoor track and cross country, the cost to start up this program really is minimal. There's also, and I believe Mr. Fiskus touched on it last time, there's no minimum number of participants needed to start this program or sustain it.
Addressing any concerns with student athletes running 3 consecutive seasons. Indoor track could be a lower key, fun season, but a way to keep student athletes active, engaged in school, and training for outdoor track. There are no league meets during the week, only invitationals on Saturday. With OA having their own program, our coaches would be able to be in close contact with our student athletes, monitoring them and adjusting practices as needed to prevent injury. With the addition of indoor track, there would be continued supervision for our athletes, as some are currently training without direct supervision in the off season.
So, and I will say from personal experience, I do run every day, and it's a matter of balancing those hard days with those easier days or rest days, and I am completely confident that our coaches are capable of doing that for our athletes.
And runners are more likely to sustain injury when ramping up quickly to start getting in racing shape versus sustaining condition and endurance through the winter months.
So we do have some of our student athletes with us tonight. I don't know if any of them have anything to add, but McKenna was one of the 4 that was able to participate with Batavia at indoor track. So if you have any questions for her, or if they have anything to say.
What about competition for our facilities? So what do practices look like? What time? And then basketball seasons, girls, boys, like where would you be able to wedge yourself into?
Right. So I mean, some of the distance runners would probably still look to go outside. You're not going to run 5 miles in the hall, but you could utilize the hall space for running, jumping, sprinting. The fitness center could be used to build up strength and stuff like that. We've also talked about, obviously the pool is being used during that time frame for swim practices and meets, but we could also, utilize the pool as just a general conditioning.
So
So
you
you
wouldn't be
don't
doing
think it's
indoor.
the gym? You won't need the gym or something?
At Batavia, so Batavia obviously is a bigger school, it has 2 gyms. So we did have the opportunity to be in the gym, but as a sprinter, I wasn't in there at all. I was in the halls the whole entire time. The jumpers sometimes were in there, but we have room in the halls. I mean, our halls are big enough to put a pit, a foam pit in the halls.
When we had indoor track, we had it from 02, 03 to 09, 10. Indoor track was in the gym Saturdays. They do a lot of their work jumping stuff. Indoor shot puts and stuff on Saturday afternoons when basketball was out there. So
Wouldn't it mirror kind of the beginning of the track season, like
It-
springs, like?
it absolutely mirrors the season. It starts November 15th, which is when winter season, swimming and basketball starts, and it ends. Sectionals are the last weekend in February. So I mean, it absolutely parallels, the current sports we have. Or what's
No, but I
typical.
mean like practice-wise, Jeff. Like,
Oh, you mean
like,
time-wise?
No,
Like practices
What is
like when I
yes.
ran in
Like you-
Yes.
the
Yeah.
spring,
Oh,
like when I'm saying, like we ran halls, we
Yes,
did outside work.
absolutely. Yes.
Mr. Bueller's giving me a thumbs up, same, that's what we're looking at.
Yes.
So
Right, we
like,
used it to stretch basically if we had the
Right.
ability
Right.
to, and then get out of there.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
and then I don't, there's not pole vaulting in the winter, is there? Like a winter track, is there?
So-
Johnson?
Indoor there is, yeah.
There is, so
There
like
is.
I remember we used to have to get like the mats out for that.
Yes, there is. We don't have much pole vaulters at our school.
Right.
We need more, but that's,
You're talking to the wrong crowd
that's,
here.
that's a different side. But that would be more like the weekend thing, or
So would it just be practices here, no competitions?
Correct.
Correct.
The,
Right.
the practices, this is where I can fill in a little bit. There are 68 schools, I shouldn't say that, there are 68 teams currently in the indoor track. Section 5, and this is unusual, really doesn't oversee indoor track. They're broken into 3 leagues. So one's Monroe County League, which is your Monroe County schools. There's 21 of those. There's a Wayne Finger Lakes League, 23 schools. If we were to be added, we would go into the Rochester Winter Track League, which is pretty much schools from all over. Typically, the meets are in one of 4 locations: Houghton College, they're Nazareth, which has a beautiful facility now, RIT, or SUNY Brockport. Typically, they're either Friday afternoon into the evenings or Saturdays. So,
Jeff, what would be, like, would we be competing within our class?
we would
or would we-
compete within our class. So, I'm looking at the list, and again, Melissa brought this up. You'll have some schools here that might have 10, 12, 14 athletes. You
Right.
might have some that have 3. So they will break you down. Even though you're in this league, you'll still be competing at the level based on your school size.
yeah. So the meets are all invites. So at an invite, it's all the schools though.
Right.
So that's a benefit for the athlete. You're at every meet you're at, there is a ton of competition.
Yeah.
It's class A through D, whatever.
Yeah,
they
and
are.
they're changing that a little, because last year, kind of with COVID, threw everything into it. They couldn't find locations because of the gathering and the numbers and all that. So they got real creative. They used Pinnacle and Victor, which is a great facility, but not typically known for track. And Houghton did open up its facility last year a little bit. So they're looking, I think, to try to make this a little bit more regional, I think, from that perspective, and kind of group it that way. So I think, McKenna's point is in the past, that's exactly the way it's been, and I think this year, based on the schedule I'm looking at, they're looking to try to cluster them a little bit differently.
Does an athlete play too?
Yep.
Yes.
You knew it was gonna come up, so.
Last year, the Genesee region, Section 5 has had this on the books. The Genesee region voted to allow for dual participation. And dual participation, there's a whole process. We developed our own, basically took it from others. Allows for a student athlete to choose their dominant sport and then participate in another sport. There's communication between the coaches, parents, and the kids are involved. We had 7 or 8 in the spring do that.
And those have to be 9th grade and above.
They have to be 9th grade and above. They can't be modified age kids. So, yeah.
No matter what level.
No matter what
they have to be
level.
9th
Yeah,
grade.
they've got to be at least 9th graders. So, we had kids in the spring that were track and tennis. We had kids that were baseball and golf. So this indoor track allows itself to be potentially that path because the meets are typically on Saturdays.
Mm-hmm.
Most other things aren't on Saturdays, other than practices. So now it turns into that conversation with the coaches and what's what. But yes, to answer your question, yeah, it is a lot.
Yeah, because I remember the last time this was addressed as a board. I think Mark, you were on board at the time, thinking really our fear was, is it going to decimate swimming? I mean, because a basketball kid, you're right, is a basketball kid, but those swimmers may be swimming for something to do, and try to stay in shape. However, with the dual participation, it's not gonna, it shouldn't, in theory. If you're a swimming kid, you're a swimmer, and then you run track. And
I mean, you would have potentially a swimmer or two I could envision that might say, I'm going to go maybe run indoor track because that's my thing.
Right.
I've never had that option.
Right. But then would still be able to
still
swim
could swim
because the
right.
majority of
right.
that is, not the
right.
bigger meets.
And I would be honest with you, I know when we had this in the past, your traditional 2.5 hour track practice from 3 to 5:30, like it might be in the spring, this may not be that. This might be a little condensed and position specific as far as what kids are doing, and maybe today the sprinters work on this and the distance kids do that. Because you are pretty much in the hallway. You get outside in the fall, winter when you can get outside.
Mm-hmm.
How many athletes did you say you had interested?
I'm sorry.
How many athletes did you say you had interested in running?
There were 18 that signed up 2 years ago for only 4 spots.
And I think when it got down to that 18, it ended up being about 14 that were okay. And then, that part you said about, we had a rubric that we ended up using because I didn't want to be judge and jury as far as, okay, you can go, but you can't go, because I didn't want that at all because it wasn't a fair system at all, really. So, yeah, we've had interest beyond those 4 kids that Batavia allowed us to have.
Do you know what those 14 kids did that did make the team? Were they in a sport?
Some went to basketball, some did swim, some didn't do anything. So I mean, yeah.
Well, then, if I think we're gonna approve the SOAR agreement later tonight. I think maybe, or we're gonna vote on it. That was a question mark. Winter track. How does that work then with the SOAR agreement? Is that something that wouldn't be agreed upon until the following?
We'd have to coordinate with.
It'd be up to us, right, if we wanted to.
Was that under an umbrella, or?
It's the way it's the way I understand it. Sure.
Yes, because Elba doesn't have
Elba doesn't
have
a
indoor
winter
track.
so
No, they don't have
if
it.
we allow them to come over.
Well, I'm just saying, could that
That
compensate
would be an
numbers
umbrella.
if we're looking for more numbers and we open it up to them?
Right, and again, I think Melissa did it, Stephanie, numbers with indoor, it's a little different, it's because there's no team score kept. So
No,
not,
I get that
right,
point too, though, but
right.
like, we're gonna pay a coach
Absolutely.
6%, 12%, whatever the
Right.
contract is, and if I'm paying a coach,
Sure.
or we're paying a coach, or the community is, I wanna make sure, Pete, that you're earning your money if you're gonna.
And to that end, the fact that we are combined for cross country and track,
Right.
to get some Elba track athletes, that's only going to help our
It's gonna help our
cross country and our
program.
track,
Right.
outdoor track. So,
And remember, the 18 individuals that signed up, they were thinking there was only going to be 4 spots. So some kids aren't going to want to take that risk. Oh, I'm not going to be selected for the 4 spots.
Right.
And we also didn't have the dual participation approved at that point, so the
Right.
number could have been higher.
Significantly higher.
Especially when you remember that there's field events, so I mean, you could
It's a
have,
full menu.
you could have somebody who just high jumps or throws shot put, and, they're gonna do that as an extra to their primary sport, so it's not gonna be as involved as you need to be running 5 miles a day to stay in great traction or something.
So how many athletes per coach? Realizing I don't know what the numbers would be, but what are we talking about for
I mean,
coaches?
based on what I would anticipate 2. I would anticipate a head coach and an assistant coach. I mean, I could be way off, but that would be my guess.
And this would be available to them, what age groups? What
Well, they are offering modified this year. I got the email that I received last week said they're modified, and this is and I would assume they're much shorter. There was no schedule, and they're on Tuesdays. So depending upon where you travel, for us to travel to SUNY Brockville, it's not that big of a deal for us to travel to Houghton on a Tuesday. But modified age kids might be a big deal.
So you might roll it out in a staggered way, maybe, if you see.
The sense I get is the modified, I think that's probably more geared for those Monroe County schools. I mean, I just think because.
But you look at our basketball numbers modified for at least boys,
right.
We've got a lot of kids that are trying to play, and it's not always the most opportune situation for these gentlemen.
What did you have in mind for your proposal or your request? What age groups were you saying right down to modified, or were you saying JV University, or what were you?
I really didn't have a thought process on that. Sorry.
The modified thing, I think, is kind of a new piece to the puzzle where they're really looking to that. And like I said, I mean, the varsity schedule set. So the modified, all they said was, yeah, modifieds we're looking at Tuesdays, and that was kind of it. So I think they're throwing that out there to see what kind of interest
And
there
I
might
would,
be.
sorry.
No.
And I would say, I mean, Steph and I have done the run club down at the elementary school for the last however many years, and there's definitely, you have an interest of, you know, people who are interested in running coming up through. So
your numbers have been big for Run Club.
Yeah,
your numbers have been pretty large.
Yeah.
Like super large. Where you
I mean, we
even
limited it last year just based on
we had
COVID.
we had one grade level last year, but the 2 years when we could have it before COVID, we had 75.
Right. And my son needs it. He needs it bad.
Yeah.
And I'm here just for information, but I will say this, that we have one of the top small school programs in the state. I'm convinced of that, both cross country and track. I mean, we are when I'm sitting in a Section 5 meeting and there are schools trying to not be in our classification for sectionals because they don't want to run against us, that's always music to my ears. So, you know, we're there. I mean, we certainly have that.
And another thing Jeff alluded to is that we're not trying to start really something. We're trying to resurrect something that was here 12 years ago. It's just been in a long nap. So, you know, we've had this before. Now we have dual participation. So we should be able to work in conjunction with the other winter sports. In addition, when you do indoor track, if you've seen these outdoor track seasons when they start, it's cold, it's rainy, it's windy. When you're indoors, it's all laser timed, it's all electronic, no hand timing, no wind, all climate controlled. Your numbers are real. So when you're a sprinter and you're trying to run in the spring, it's tough to get a good time until you're a month and a half, 2 months into the season. Here, every single meet, you are getting an honest time against very good competition. Same with the throwers, same with the vaulters. So it really does benefit the athlete to get an actual number instead of competing against the elements. So another benefit.
What happened in 9 and 10 that ceased?
That was
this?
the state went through those big budget crunch, and we lost a bunch of staff in that window. And golf and indoor were the two sports we had last, so they were the first two to come out.
So prior to 02 and 03, we didn't have anything.
No,
even, that was all.
02,
Just,
I was on board of ed that year, 08, 09, or 9, 10, whatever it was, and it was we had to crunch the numbers, and it was program, curriculum, faculty, or golf and indoor track. It wasn't because the program wasn't successful. There was a lot of bodies there. It was just because we had to save some money somewhere, and that's a place where we thought we could, eke out a few dollars. So.
This isn't something we have to vote on tonight. Can we kind of put together a few questions and then take a vote on in September, perhaps?
You could. I mean, the earlier, the better, obviously. So we'd have to hire coaches and get the program started.
Do we have more questions?
I do too. Is there, I mean, is this for, so if we put this out there, so say it's modified up through whatever, is this for every student? Is this going to be something that it's kind of going to be a discretion? I mean, Pete, obviously, as a track coach, cross country, you would probably have a lot of, running is, I think, pretty specific. I don't run, I'm a swimmer, so, any of that stuff. But multi-sport concept, is that something that as a coach you would encourage other people who running 3 seasons? That might not be the best for them. I mean, Pete, I don't know if that would be something you would be able to kind of coach. Kids listen to you guys. They have a ton of faith in you. They obviously love all the staffing. So what is the concept for that if you really are
Absolutely. For quick history, first, thanks Mrs. Clark and Mr. White. Fantastic.
But my freshman year, I went out for JV basketball, and obviously I did not make the team. Cut instantly got cut. And they gave me 3 days, courtesy. Benny Hoot, and then Mr. Goldstein at the time saw all these people just getting cut. And I wasn't brave enough to swim. I probably should have swam. But then Mr. Goldstein came to the board at that time and said, "Hey, look at this." And, like you just saw, the participation just dropped. And then, so my sophomore, junior, senior year, all the way to 09 and 10, we had indoor. And to be 100% honest, Mr. Goldstein coached it phenomenally. He understood that you can't beat people up. It's a different season. You got to have fun. I mean, I love these guys, and they love me, knock on wood, but they'll get sick of me if we coach the same way from, So Coach Goldstein did a phenomenal job of changing it up, all more based on strength training, just getting strong and lifting, which is going to help you no matter what sport you play. I do know that if this is improved and Elbow would love to join, Coach Winter, he's dying for this. He hates to see his football team, which he gets them lifting, those linemen, yada, yada, yada. So those guys who don't play basketball, he doesn't see them. This is just a great feeder. The football guys who don't play basketball, don't swim, they're lifted all winter with Coach Winter. And then again, he's got them for track. So it's a pretty nice pipeline if it can work. Mr. Goldstein did great with Mr. Boswick, a great football coach at that time. So the emphasis, like our parents were saying, will be a little different for sure. We got to cut down Mr. Sykes and I talked about just the philosophy, what it will have to be if it happens. It's got to be shorter. We're in the halls. We can't really go outside as much. It's got to be fun. And the cool thing is, we're not stressed, for whoever the coaches are. You're not stressed about the league meets. I don't have Alexander every Wednesday that we're trying to beat in a dual meet. This is more a little holistic, organic for these guys. It'll be a good break for them, and so they can just train and run. So yes, the training definitely has to be different. And if everyone could deadlift and clean, Hoochie Mama, imagine what they're going to do in all the other sports. So I can see some baseball, softball leagues, joining as well, just to get strong. And McKenna has seen great results from that in Batavia. Those sprinters, in a short season like spring, how much time do you have to lift? You'll never see those results.
But the training
if
was
you start in
different.
November.
I was going to say, from my experience with it, indoor is a totally different sport than your cross country or your track. It is individually, there were some days I was doing yoga, and I'm not flexible, but it was what is best to help your body and to make sure you can compete on Saturdays, but that's it. Like, lower the training levels and make sure that you're lifting and you're
well-rounded.
Yes. The other things that most times you think runners are running 7 miles a day, it's not that. It's
more event specific, or to
yes,
what you're.
and
So you're a sprinter, you're not gonna
No.
mess around with the giant warm up that Mr. Wheeler might do in the spring because you got hours.
Yes.
Now you're sort of condensing it.
At Batavia, which I don't know if it would be here at Oakfield as well, but there each athlete had their own calendar, and they did their own specific workouts and things on each day. There they had a lot of coaches, a lot of athletes, but it was very specific to the individual.
And then you as an upper level sprinter, and at these invitationals, you're seeing A schools, B schools, you're seeing all these. You may not be competing against that A girl, but you're seeing what she runs.
Yes,
and
not only that, indoor track for me, other than the athletic part, the friendships I've made there, I'm there, you're there for an invite, so hours,
right.
And you're there and you're meeting new people, and then on the side, I'm going on training with these girls that I'm meeting who are at a higher level than just the league meets that we would have here in Geneseo.
As an aside to that, one of the things in all the years I've been a coach and an AD is, high school athletics is education-based athletics. You have travel and you have AAU and all that stuff, and that's great, and kids get better in those things with their skills. This is education-based, and the fact that you can, load kids up from Oakfield-Alabama High School, put them on a bus, and they can go to SUNY Brockport, and they go to Nazareth College and see some of the facilities and get exposed to what a campus looks like. That's a bonus in a lot of cases. They may not have that opportunity. In many cases, kids may not. But now that they get the opportunity that we're able to provide that for them, so you walk into the CERC Center at SUNY Brockport, it's a pretty nice facility, and kids are like, wow, there's another world out there that I may not have been exposed to before. Right. So the 4 facilities that they use are really, really nice. NAS is incredible. So that's the other piece to that kind of piggybacks on what we kind of said too. So.
And you don't foresee this dual participation thing going away? So it's not like something we're going to prove.
Are you asking me personally or asking me?
Professionally.
Professionally, it's not going to go away.
Okay.
Yeah, what does that look like?
I just don't want to see we approve it this year with the understanding that these kids can do both, and then next year it goes away.
As a coach that coaches in the winter, who may have an athlete that would be interested, it's tricky. It's tricky. It was tricky in the spring, to be honest with you. It worked. Do I think you're going to have a ton of kids that are going to say, "Oh yeah"? I don't. I think you'll have a few that would say, "I'm a basketball player, but I know I can, I can go run an invite," and they still have to meet the practice requirements. They can't just show up on a Saturday. They still have to meet the state practice requirements to be eligible. But the fact that there isn't a team sport, the fact that there isn't, I guess, that commitment to team as you might have in some other things, it opens the door to that. I mean, Pembroke started indoor last year because they couldn't run with Batavia as well. Had McKenna, they had a really good basketball player who was also an indoor track, a track kid, and she did both, and missed sectionals in indoor track because she had a basketball game that got rescheduled for the night of sectionals, and that was her primary sport, and she missed, and by all accounts probably would have done really well in sectionals. So, I mean, those things will happen, in my job, that's right. I'm going to reschedule a game, and I'm not, I'll do my best, but if I have to reschedule a game, and the only night I can reschedule a game is this Saturday, and there's a meet Saturday, and she's playing for me, let's say, and she goes, well, I'm going to go run. Well, we got a game, right? I mean, it is, so you'll have those things pop up. But again, this is kind of the road we're headed down with this dual participation stuff, so.
Do we have a budget number, an idea?
I threw some numbers together, and some of them I think are fairly accurate. I reached out to Dave Hennessy, who's the guy at Section 5. It's $1,500 for the league fee to be a part of it, and he says typically you pick up like 1 meets officials, you get the vouchers. So I ballparked that at about $2,000. Depending upon who coaches or how many coaches, I put down a number of about $4,500 to $5,000 again. And I talked to Josh with transportation. That's most of these, if you look at the schedule, are 4 to 6 hour meets. So you're paying the driver whatever the hourly rate is plus whatever the transportation, the bus cost will be. So I ballparked it out $13,000 to $15,000. Now
for the transportation
for everything.
Oh, everything.
Yeah. And again, if you needed another coach because,
for the whole season.
Again, I'm ballparking on transportation. I mean, Josh would know far more than I, but you've got 12 meets.
Yeah.
So at roughly 4 to 6 hours a meet, and Houghton being the farthest one away, so that's a good hour, hour and a half. Those days can get long. But
9 hour a day, 10 hour a day. Somebody.
But the coaching and the league fees, I know those are pretty accurate.
What's the breakdown in participation in the track, OA, and Alba? What percent is OA? What percent is Alba?
It's probably 90%, 10%.
Yeah, majority, yeah.
Cross country, we have 1 Alba kid this year.
It was just a girl, right? Just one. I don't shouldn't say just a girl, but there was only one participant.
Really good.
Yeah, she was fine. It was great, right? Yeah. No, I don't mean just a girl. I mean there was only one person from Alba. I'll be quiet now.
I know, jumping back to the Alba thing. Alba did have an indoor team 2 years ago. They did the same thing that we did with Batavia.
Right. Yeah.
They had 2 athletes, 1. But I know they had like 1 or 2 athletes that did the same thing as we did. So.
If you extend it down to modified, could you say no thank you if they offer you a meet on a Tuesday that's 2 hours away? Does it work like that? Where you're getting the exposure, but you're not necessarily traveling 2 hours on a Tuesday?
You could. I would think that in those situations, sure. Because let's say the meet is in Houghton and we're having bad weather, and Houghton's fine, and we're just like, hey, we're not coming. There's no team event. Right. Those kids wouldn't, they just wouldn't run their individual races that day or compete, whatever. So yeah, I would think that's doable. The sense I got just reading the email was that most of those modified meets would be Monroe County, be SUNY, Brockport, RIT, NAS. I didn't see too, because again, I think that's where you probably have some of your bigger numbers with modified kids because those are bigger schools. Some of the schools from the southern tier may not, just have huge numbers at the modified level.
So modified would have a separate schedule.
Mm-hmm.
So then transportation costs.
Right. And they may not be every week either. Like that might be once every 2 or 3 weeks. They might run 6 meets instead of 12.
Time those modified meets start?
Great. Josh, they didn't say. I'm guessing 5 o'clock.
You got night owls and transportation.
And I would also think too that you're going to, again, I think that's something they're really kind of looking into for the same reasons we're looking into this. That they've got numbers,
And then just boys basketball modified. Do you ballpark how many were 7th and 8th grade, Jeff? How many were?
Last year?
40. There's a huge.
Last year we had 27 or 28, I think, when it was all said and done. There was playing. There was big numbers. Heck, there was big numbers in mod baseball. There were big numbers. So.
Right. So just not to hurt one program to help another, it just might be some of those 27 kids that are playing modified basketball may not make JV basketball.
I think Pete alluded to that with the JV varsity level kids that got caught. Back then, I think those kids you had another way to keep them busy. Which is good.
Would there be cuts? If it grew enough, would there be cuts?
No, track typically.
No, it's like we take anybody. That's the whole thing. That's when I was a runner. It took me.
They took Coach Brewer way back when.
I do think you have an opportunity to be creative with 7th and 8th grade if you're worried about the modified level. Watching Melissa and Steph and helping them out with Run Club, especially this year, they did a lot of really fun interactive activities with them that I know Pete and anybody that helped him could kind of facilitate a modified schedule here where maybe they weren't going and competing and traveling and worrying about going to Houghton with this group, but they could do fun activities where they're working towards goals and setting individual goals, because that's what we did with Run Club and that's what these kids are really used to. So I think thinking holistically about how can we keep kids active and involved and out of their own way sometimes, there's ways for us to kind of slowly roll into a modified if we want to focus on the varsity season, see what that looks like number-wise, see what the numbers look like for our modified season. I don't think you have to jump in one way or another. Speaking from both sides as an administrator and as a mom, I think you would still get people to participate and really learn the benefits of proper form, proper conditioning. I don't know how many times Steph and Melissa have been running with kids to say, okay, slow down, we gotta pace ourselves. What does it mean to pace yourself? And just not overexert yourself. So there's a lot of opportunity to really learn and do this in a healthy way to balance out our educational supports.
I will also add, we're always looking for more middle school activities.
Yes.
Always. So ways to engage kids is always a benefit.
Do you guys have anything?
I have something. So I'm one of the only pole vaulters that we have now, and the outdoor season is tough with pole vaulting because you have the weather, or some meets you go to where you can't pole vault, and so even some practices where pole vaulting with what I've been doing, I've been going to a professional 2 to 3 times a week, where he's setting me up to be able to do more stuff on my own in practice. Because most of pole vaulting is drills. You have a lot of drills that you can do and not a lot of the actual vaulting and putting all the drills together. And having an indoor season where there's not the weather that can affect how you're pole vaulting, it gives you a marking point where you can go to, and being able to practice through, because pole vaulting is a hard thing to keep your strength up and to be able to keep doing it. So having indoor would make me be able to keep doing it. Even just going 2 to 3 times a week helps, but being able to do it every day and then having competitions to see how you're doing and if you're improving would really help too.
And a lot of us are training over the winter anyway, but with winter training there's no competitions unless you have indoor, and that will give every event a chance to compete when maybe it's hard to practice long jump over the winter, but they can compete at these indoor facilities, and they won't have that opportunity if we don't do this. And it'll give a lot of other people that maybe don't do a lot over the winter, it'll give them an opportunity to participate in something.
Yeah, great presentation.
Thank you.
I still,
Thank you.
I think we just have the next couple of weeks where we can send any questions to you, kind of get some of the numbers back.
Right, and as I gather, and I will continue to reach out to the people at Section 5 with the different leagues and the different particulars, and I'll keep gathering information too, so.
Sounds very promising, so we'll get back with you probably next month.
Okay.
And then move from there, but great job.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
If we were to do this and we were to invite Alba, I would suggest we at least consider a shared team rather than a umbrella team from the cost share. So
Huh?
I look at Coach Mueller's shirt. I look at the shirts over there. These are essentially shared teams already with the complete cost sharing. So if we were to do that,
Yeah.
I don't know how you ask afterwards. So at the startup, I'd suggest it as a share. Consider that.
So that's just another thing.
Currently, your track and your cross country are umbrella.
Correct.
Right. Just another point we gotta look at before we say yes or no.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Really nice job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, next on the agenda are the approval of minutes. Be it resolved that the minutes of the July 27th, 2021 meeting be approved. Can I get, any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, visitor requests. We have requests from Mark Colopy from the Oakfield Community Bible Church. Mark, if you'd like to come on up.
Yes, I'm Mark Colopy. I live at 28 Mill Street, for the record, here in Oakfield. And Pastor Jack McMullen to my left, he moved on me. A couple of good Irish names. But we're here tonight based upon a need for a transportation request. The Oakfield Community Bible Church for some time has been evaluating an after-school program. We've had requests from parents not only within the congregation, but outside the congregation in the school district and other churches. And what we've come up with is a program called Child Evangelism. They're after-school good news clubs. Some growing up, many of you may have participated in some type of program. They used to call them Bible clubs. CEF programs have been around since the earlier part of the last century, actually. And I provided an actual handout which has a link to the program that you can go and study it a little bit further if you'd like to. But tentatively, Good News Clubs run October through April annually. Most Good News Clubs have 20 to 30 participating children. And typically there's about a 5-to-1, 4-to-1 ratio with the teachers, the help, volunteers with the students. Again, these are students that are between first grade and fifth grade. Typically, the ones that are a little bit younger, it's too long to sit. They've just been sitting all afternoon. They're ready to, they can't focus that long. So we typically go from first through fifth grade with this program. We checked with some other locations in the area to look at what other districts are doing. We found that the most interesting one is, and one of the largest ones in this part of the state is Cal-Mum, with almost 90 participating students in the elementary program. That's quite significant and one of the larger ones, but also Naples is another one. Leroy has had a program, although it's not a CEF program, Child Evangelism Good News Club program, but they've had a not-for-profit religious instruction program out of Main Street. for a number of years prior to the pandemic. Some schools have provided the space within the school. For example, we mentioned Calmall. They have the club in the school. They also provide, at the parents' request, parents have to request personally transportation, but they do provide that as well. Our executive board for the church just asked us to come, Pastor and I, to come and speak with you personally, make the request known to you. One of the other things that we wanted to mention, not only with the volunteers, but the volunteers have to be not only like teachers, and all of your, help and personnel, and probably even janitorial staff, have to be checked out federally. You do a background check on the volunteers. Another thing that's done on the principal building where this program would be held at 82 North Main Street is there's a security camera that physically tracks and records those going in and out of that section of the building for this program. And it's handicapped accessible with a handicapped bath facility as well. As for transportation, I kind of left that out. I think we proposed, and we've talked about this pretty diligently with other districts, as well as the CEF director, was Missy Iverson from Honeyway Falls. It was proposed that we move our pickup drop-off location. We have a Bennett Avenue access, a driveway, and we proposed that kids be dropped off there after school, elementary school, and that use that driveway entrance to remove liabilities associated with, just parking, stopping, starting on Main Street, letting kids off. We don't want that anything to happen any more than for all the right reasons. The school has moved away from, doing quite so much on Main Street and 262. Being very careful, changing our policies. We're keenly aware, that of the whole issue legally as far as setting up precedents, But in coming to you, we look back at our own history, and we can see where the school has provided transportation for music lessons, for the young people that are going through First Communion or membership. They've provided transportation of kids to the facility for that at 82 North Main Street, as well as choirs to the Catholic Church, the Methodist Church, our church, and the Country Church down on Drake Street. So I mean, it's not something entirely unusual, and the thing that we didn't want to do, we wanted to provide a safe place. We realized that the space at the school is limited. And coming into the school once a week and trying to juggle space and have people in the school commit to that space and have it accessible, security, cleanup, etc. So, we'll just do it right there on Main Street at our own church. We've got a single floor, ground floor facility there. We can offer the program. We just need a little help with the transportation. So that's why we're here. I believe looking around the room tonight, I know I grew up in Akron, way out in Rapids Road going towards Sand Hill. Some of you may know where that is. But I can remember getting out in the afternoon. On Thursday afternoons, we get out an hour early and walking down Bloomingdale Avenue and John Street to the Dino Library, and that's where we'd go for Bible Club in the afternoon. That's where we have this program. And we'd walk back to the school, get back on the bus, and go home. And I'm sure, those of you that had the privilege of growing up in Oakfield, some of you, I'm sure, were involved in programs that, regardless of the church that you're involved in. And that's one thing I'll fold back to, is that these programs are non-denominational. This is not a Baptist, a Catholic, a Presbyterian, whatever. These are non-denominational programs for all faiths, for all children. So with that, I think we'll just thank you for your time. Thank you for your service to this community. and the commitment in listening to us, and you've been listening for quite a while tonight. So you gave us 3 minutes, and we appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a couple policies that we're looking at tonight. John?
Yeah, so for the board, this is the first reading of all 4 of these policies. Real quick, the 6150 and the 7320 really are just including cannabis as far as, drug classification. The first policy is for staff, the second one is for students. And it's just, again, adding marijuana usage and the cannabis vocabulary in that policy, so nothing earth-shaking there. The third policy is just updating what students' rights are if they are classified as homeless or if they're in temporary housing. And then also just kind of clarifies what our responsibilities are and answer some questions like, yes, we will provide them lunch, we will provide them free education, so, some things, along that nature. And policy 7552 is a student gender identity policy that's recommended to have per our attorneys. And again, it's up for the board's first reading. So those are the 4 policies.
First 2 policies, not too much to discuss there. I didn't think as I was reading those. It's just that you can't use cannabis on school grounds for staff or students. Do you think this needs a second reading at all, or could we?
I'm okay.
So, we would just pass, we would just say.
We need to make a motion.
Make a motion.
You want to go through the third and fourth, or do you want us to take it to first and second down and then?
Let's go through the first and second, and then we can talk about the third and fourth briefly. So, can I get a motion to approve policy?
6150 and 7320. I'll make the motion.
Thank you.
Policy 6150 and 7320.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
With the medical, I saw there's a medical exemption. Who determines that? Is there a school doctor, the school nurse, does the employee?
That request would come to me, and yes, I would refer to probably WorkFit Medical and make sure that it's all good.
Okay. You really don't have to be issued a card to actually have the medical.
Yes, yeah.
You have to actually
We would
be
vet
issued.
that.
Right, no, I know that, I didn't know.
Yeah,
who
we would vet
be-
that through WorkFit Medical or
Gotcha.
attorneys,
Okay.
absolutely.
That's a good question, because then then there was the other one that I was thinking about too, Jeff, was there was somebody you reported to who's designated to report any incidents. Who would that person be that we would designate? Would that go right?
So for the staff, it would be myself,
Right.
and for the students, it's the building principals.
Got it, okay.
Okay. And then obviously, right, I mean, because I work with people who, it's not so much illegal anymore, but they still, with the medical exemption and all that.
Yeah.
It still has obviously the ability to be abused. So if someone was to think that this person's, I guess, outside of what should be deemed medically necessary, on school grounds, then it would be referred to you, then to WorkFit and figure out, is this person using the appropriate dosage of their.
Theoretically, they're still not allowed to use it on school grounds because it's no different than tobacco products.
Honestly, that would be a case-by-case
Right.
basis, depending on
That's the
what
language
the
there.
need for it is.
As a prescribed
And again,
medication.
so,
Right. Okay.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And then for the other policy, the homeless temporary housing one seemed to be pretty meaty to me. I don't know if we wanted to do a second read on that.
Yeah, the current policy that we have on this is really outdated, and you know, unfortunately, more and more each and every year, we do have students that are classified and identified that are in temporary housing, or you know, kind of in that transient, or even you know, just homeless. So really, it's updating the definition of, you know, quote unquote, what a feeder school means, what a homeless child means, and then really, again, what our rights are, what the students and the families' rights are. So while it is 14 pages long, there isn't anything in here that is earth-shattering. You know, again, I did answer some of the questions where it talks about you know, arrange for the child to receive free school meals. Yes, we do that. Tuition reimbursement. Yes, we do that.
Transportation.
You know, transportation, all of that. So, you know, that, I mean, it's what we do anyway. But we just need to update this policy because our policy is over 10 years old. And again, more and more we're seeing students coming to us, you know, from this nature. So nothing really earth-shattering, but it is a long read.
We push it off. We don't need it. This meeting approved. Is it?
No, because we do have a policy on this. This is just updating it, more so vocabulary and just.
Is the current policy much like this one?
It's a little shorter.
A little bit shorter.
Back from 2012.
Yeah.
So.
I wouldn't mind giving it a second read.
I think I saw the transportation mileage, was that like 50 miles, John, a radius that we have to then consider our home district? What is the average? I know we have some kids that, you know, are in the motels in Batavia. You know, how far out have we?
Hey, Josh.
I'm sorry, I was wrong.
Did you answer his question?
There's something about.
Josh, what's for the homeless kids? I know, or deemed homeless. I know we have some out in the motels and stuff in Batavia. What's the farthest out?
It's like 50 miles, but we don't really have any.
That's yeah, that's the limit. But like in all reality, what's the working distance that you see?
Well,
it's not 50 miles.
I mean, I guess it could be.
It could be, right.
The furthest we've gone since I've been here, we had some students that lived in a trailer park in Shiloh, heading through Churchville there, and then they lived in Holly.
Okay, so you're looking
they lived in Medina,
right?
You know, so I mean that's I mean most of the time our homeless kids end up in Batavia. That's where we kind of go back and forth.
Yeah,
we've been there.
The majority of our homeless students end up in another home in the district too.
Yeah. So I mean, as far as our district, like we've gone to, not it's just been Batavia, but there has been a couple.
Okay.
Rockport last year.
Rockport, yeah, Rockport, Spencerport actually. Yeah, I went to Spencerport.
So Josh, then what is that? Then an individual driver goes and picks them up, and
yeah, and we have contingencies for them. I mean, you know, 50 miles. Some on the other side of Rochester might be a little difficult, but
right.
We do have a bus that goes to Rochester. We have to go something out with it. Hopefully not. Not gonna.
Right.
So I don't have to make we don't have to do a motion for this. We just push it out for the second reading. And then for the final one, policy 7552, I would like to do a second reading on that one as well. We can discuss it at a further date. Are we okay with that?
Yeah, I sent an email to each of you, and I'll say it publicly that I would support that policy. I don't have any interest in trying to persuade anybody over to my line of thinking, but as that policy is written, I'm not going to vote.
Okay, thank you. Approval of warrants. Be it resolved that after an audit of the bills, payment of the July 21st, 2021 and August 4th, 2021 warrants and internal claims auditor reports be approved. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. 7 reports. Christine.
Not a whole lot to update you.
Okay.
I have just received the entries, tentative entries from the auditors, so they're not final yet. So when I have that, we'll have something to report on that, obviously for the September meeting. And you'll get caught up and inundated with probably a lot of treasurer reports at that point in time too. We should really get the June stuff and the July and August. Good news, we did receive the approval of our Sarissa application. That was the one for $703,000, using that to over 2 years. That's when it's spread over 2 years, to kind of bring some money back into the general fund and utilize that to help support that. But we did receive that approval yesterday, so that's good news. And then also we're sending in the ARPA application, which is actually going to get split into 2 buckets. Well, it's 2.6 million, but there's 1.9 that's for learning loss, and there's a 775,000 that's for other, and then a reserve for 20% of that for learning loss. So the total of that is 775. That's getting turned in tomorrow. So the deadline for that's August 31st. But because of how we put our plan together and how we move forward with it, we're ready to rock and roll on it and get that submitted. So that'll go in tomorrow. And we've received no guidance on how to submit the application for the remaining 1.9.
For the ARPA?
Still waiting for that. Yeah, that's the learning loss piece. That's that state set aside that ended up being our biggest portion.
Was it some of our summer programs were in the was supposed to be that?
They're getting paid out of that.
So we don't know how to get
Well, that's fine. I'm not worried about it at
But
all.
it's delineated though, and I don't think a lot of other school districts have a plan like ours ever in place.
I have people asking for copies of our plan help.
And it's
get
still
there. They haven't even
accessible
done their stuff
online, I
that's
think,
from
too,
it,
if
so
you
we're
want
in
to
good shape.
look at it.
We're in really good shape.
No,
And the people at the state are, the lady who called me yesterday regarding Sarissa, she's like, hey, can you just send me an email and tell me where you want this extra $200 we found for you to go? And I'm like, okay, benefits. And 10 minutes later, I got the approval. So they've been pretty good to work with.
no, thank you for that. John?
I want to thank Carrie Miller, Ryan Steller, and Connie Rockow. We finished day 2 of our 3-day new teacher orientation training program. So all the mentors and new teachers were here yesterday and today, and tomorrow they wrap up. You know, I had a chance to obviously address them and pop on in, and they're just doing a fantastic job. Really excited with our new teachers coming on board. We do have some teachers that have extensive experiences in other districts, which are really going to help. And then we have some, ready to go right out of college students that, I'm excited for their ability. So the program's great. So thanks to Carrie, Ryan, who are our mentor, coordinator, so to say, and Connie for setting that up. On Thursday, I will be having our SRO interviews. We have 4 candidates. I talked to Brian Friday yesterday afternoon, starting at 9 o'clock. I don't know if there's a board member or a handful that would be available. I do have some teachers, and our administrative team will be interviewing 4 candidates for our SRO position. And I'm hopeful that either the board, once we decide on a candidate, that the board can either have a quick meeting to approve the SRO, or with your blessing, trust us and we can officially approve him or her at the September meeting, because the contract starts September 1st. And I would like to get someone in here September 1st, because we paid for it. And then at least get somebody in here the day before the teachers come in on the 2nd. But that will also allow the SRO on the 2nd to walk around when the teachers are in their classrooms to kind of introduce themselves and say hello, and then have that person really in here for a week before our kids come in. So I'll keep you in the loop on that.
But is there no overlap with our outgoing SRO, any type of orientation, anything to sort of aid the incoming?
Yes, Tim is still actually working for the district. So
until
he's going to be a bus driver now. So But he said that he would stay on if we didn't find somebody, but knowing that we have 4 candidates and these interviews are going to take place, and hopefully by Thursday afternoon we've settled on somebody. Like I said, you know, if the board wants to have a, you know, a quick Monday morning meeting, or again, if you know, I have your blessing that we can approve the person, you know, at the September meeting and not have an emergency meeting. Really, that's up to the board, but hopefully by the end of the week we'll have a candidate.
Can we put some language in his contract for the bus driver that he works out with SAO or something?
Right. But yeah, it's tough to lose Tim. I thought he did a fantastic job, but you know, he's in his retirement, and now he wants to have some fun. So. To keep with staffing, we are in the process of hiring a business teacher. We are having some conversations. Matt and I have reached out to our BOCES. The person that we are looking for is not certified. He's in the private sector. He does not have his teaching degree. In speaking with this person, he is absolutely more than willing to go back and get his teaching certificate. So we just need to kind of figure out how that all works. You know, obviously there aren't a lot of business teachers out there, and you know, in working with BOCES, they think, and this person does have a master's degree, that he thinks a lot of the college courses would fall under you know, getting a teaching certificate, and it's probably just, you know, the pedagogical classes that he needs to take. I'm assuming that he probably needs 6 to 8 classes, so it may take him a year or a year and a half or 2 to get his teaching certificate. But you know, we firmly believe this is the person that we want. That being said, Matt has provided support for this teacher because there are a couple of business math courses and a computers apps course, so we're using you know, the math specialist and our librarian here to be the teacher of record, because we are offering credit for these courses, and we just need to make sure that we can still offer credit and have teachers of record, and because again, he's not certified. I'm not concerned about his knowledge. You know, again, it's just kind of, we want to make sure that we have highly qualified people here, and you know, he's a great choice to be there, and like I said, you know, over the next year and a half or so, he'll have to go back and get his teaching certificate. But you know, in the meantime, I'll keep you posted on, you know, if we run into any more roadblocks. But again, if this is something that works out, I'll contact the board to see if you want to have a meeting, or you know, possibly approve this person at the September meeting. We do need somebody. We did have 2 or 3 rounds of business interviews, and frankly, we were not satisfied with any of the candidates. So that's where we're at that point.
It is a practice that does happen, though. Notoriously, it's like in Spanish, where you'll have to do a minimum number of credit hours to prove that you're going towards the certification. So it's not something that's completely out of practice. It does happen in school districts.
This person coaches high school basketball. He's from the area, so he does work with kids. I worked with him at Roy Hart. He was a teacher aide in my building. I actually hired him. So he does have, I mean, he does work with kids. He coaches kids, you know, so I'm not concerned about him, again, without, you know, I'm not concerned about his knowledge. I'm not concerned about him working with kids. It's just the whole not being certified and not being a classroom teacher.
Yeah.
So, but, you know, at this point, he, you know, I think if you know, we provide those supports.
Right? He'd have a mentor, he'd have
yes.
observations, I'm sure, Matt.
Oh, absolutely.
Right
yes.
off the beginning.
Yeah, we're just working with BOCES to see, you know, the course of, you know, what's the most efficient way to get him certified, what he would need, and then again, you know, just working out some of the logistics about, you know, the teacher of record and making sure we can offer credit and the support that he may need. But I think he's a very good fit for the district. And we decided to post for a social worker this time. We have run out of luck with the Centers for Youth multiple times, and I do believe it comes down to what the Center for Youth was offering the social workers, because they were their employees to come and work here, and we had at least 3 candidates that fell through and weren't working out, so we've decided to post a social worker position to see if we get any applications. The one social worker that decided to stay where she is at is now interested in our position because the benefits and the salary would be better. So I believe that posting closes next Friday, so I'll keep the board informed on interviews and candidates and see how many applicants we get. And then next Thursday, September 2nd, the teachers are here. Per their contract, they have a day before the school year starts to work in their classrooms. So they'll be here on campus on Thursday. All other district employees will be here on Thursday, working full time. So we'll have the cafeteria staff, the bus drivers. There's tons of trainings that that are mandated each and every year. So they'll be busy that day. And then obviously Tuesday after Labor Day on the 7th at about 8 o'clock, we will kick off the school year with all of our district staff at the Oakfield Fire Hall. The reason we are doing this off campus is our auditorium is not ready, and we certainly want everybody in one place to gather and collaborate and have some camaraderie. So the Oakfield Fire Hall was generous enough, and thank you, Oakfield, to allow us to use their fire hall. And we'll provide breakfast and do a little kickoff there in the morning, and then return back here in the afternoon for building meetings and things like that, and then we'll welcome kids the following day on the 8th. I didn't know if there was a board. I think you start school on the 7th. I don't know if there was a board member or two that maybe wanted to pop on in at about 8:45 that Tuesday morning and speak to the district. You could just let me know. Or
what about a video recording? No, I'm not even joking. Like, I wouldn't mind saving a message.
You could do that. I would not suggest a Zoom or a Google Meet. I think we're all tired of those.
Right.
So, but yeah, just let me know.
All right.
And then I don't know if there's any other news for the board. We're just kind of wrapping up the summer. I don't know where it went. You got to get your building clean. Yes.
I'm gonna go last.
What does drop off and stuff look like this year? Is it kind of like going back to normal?
So for Lynn's building, so the parent.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear your question.
I was wondering what we changed so much for drop off and stuff last year. We obviously the elementary school is changing completely because of construction, but is it still kind of the same COVID?
It's actually going to be easier for parent pickup and drop off and buses because they have 2 separate loops, so everything is happening at the exact same time.
Yeah.
So Josh is going to coordinate his buses to come in off the Maltby side. They're going to be completely segregated, so even if a parent comes through and exits off Maltby, there's such a distance that there's no way for those cars to interact with our kids. So everything can happen at the same time. So that weird time crunch, if you have to be here before and then you're going to be on the wait and then the buses come, all that's gone. So that's going to be a lot more convenient for families. And then I'll explain all of that in that little video to the community that we're going to send to Parent Square, just to kind of show parents how to come through, where the kids are going to go, knowing that the bus loop is different, kids are going to come in different hallways for the first time. So we're going to explain all of that and kind of give them a little mini tour. And then I'll have the comments on so parents can ask any questions and we can get them immediate feedback.
No staging area this year?
No staging area, nope. We're going to try the red carpet. It's going to be modified. I think I'm a little bit crazy for trying it in the middle of all this, but why not? We're going to do 2 separate red carpet experiences for the kids, kind of split ourselves up. Kind of get back to what we know and love, and our kids loved that day, so we're going to try a modified version. I don't know if I'm ambitious enough to invite all the parents to come and line the sidewalks this year, but I'm still thinking about that. So I guess that's my good news, is that we're bringing back the red carpet.
So all buses are coming in and out through, well, in through Mulvey Road, is that?
Well, I mean.
That's a total Josh question. The majority.
There might be maybe a couple that come in the other way, depending on, but I mean, it'd definitely be a little more over by your house.
Will there be exiting traffic there too?
Well, I mean, the busing, I mean, there might be a couple going out the main entrance. A lot of them be going out that way. I mean, it depends on, I mean, which run it is. So, I'd say the majority will be heading out that way.
Will it be safe for your Mulvey Road walkers that are coming in and out of that entrance?
Well, I mean, we do have buses that.
Please don't hit my daughters.
I'm thinking, who else is walking?
Yeah.
That's gotta be
Allison
it.
Hurwitz.
Pick them up, they'd be the last pickup, they'd be on the bus 5 minutes, they'd drive. I could
Well,
pick
you
them
got
up.
a high schooler now.
Oh, well, I still make it go.
But I mean, it's yeah. I mean, there'll be a few more buses going out that way. I don't think maybe all of them will, but
Maybe a
I mean,
sidewalk on
there'll
the
be
next capital project.
Just jump.
I mean, it depends on. I mean, we'll see how. I don't anticipate it.
Right. So like that capital project was a little disappointing. The difference between last month and this month and everything that we heard, and a lot of that falls on you to accommodate Lynn. So hopefully you feel like, I mean, it sounds as though everybody's working together to make it work, but I think probably as a board we're disappointed in what we heard today versus a month ago. So appreciate you guys doing the best.
Yeah, I mean, it's not ideal, but honestly, working with Pete and Mike and AJ, they really are out of the box thinkers. They try to give us enough notice. They try to think through different solutions and ideas. You know, we have great communication for this capital project, which is huge compared to the last one I was involved with. So as much as it's really disappointing and frustrating, they are working really, really hard behind the scenes for you guys to get that output. And so it's been easy to accommodate some of the requests that they've made. My teachers and faculty have been amazing. You know, anytime I reach out to an individual to say this might be happening, they're always forward thinking and ready to hit the ground running. I think we're just so eager to get back into the building and with our kids. It's like last year when we opened in COVID, everybody was terrified. The tension the first day of school without kids, with all the unknowns, but 30 minutes after our building was loaded with kids, it was all gone. And we all went back to what we know and love. And I know that that's exactly what's gonna happen this year, just getting to that point. Some sleepless nights, but we'll be fine.
So don't be afraid to communicate to them when your patience will run out. September 3rd becomes the 10th and the 17th and the 24th.
Yes.
Like at some point.
Yes, I will.
We'll see what we hear next month.
Yeah, hopefully better news, because you didn't walk around with us.
Was it so good?
I know, I didn't.
No.
Frustration is
Yeah.
like, this is what you could foresee that was going to happen, but they kept on saying, no, it's not going to. And it's like, you knew it was going to happen.
When he said that thing about labor, I looked at you because, you know, they're talking a lot about supplies.
Right.
But, you know, we're all hearing about it being hard to find people. So when you offer this quote, we expect you to be able to follow through with the supplies, but also labor. And it almost sounds like he's stopping one step short of saying, we offered you a quote, but we weren't able to staff it according to the quote. That's the reason why you're delayed. And that wouldn't be acceptable.
You remember the pitch was that there were so many guys out there looking for work that we were going to get so much
Right.
work done
Right.
and everything else. And it's just,
No, it has not come to fruition. There's an article in the Batavian, so other schools are releasing their masking guidelines, and in that, the principal, whoever that is, that's quoted, said there was a 3 o'clock meeting, Department of Health conference call that may change their masking guidelines. I assume that didn't change anything, nothing's changed yet?
So we initially had a meeting set up with Paul Pettit today. In anticipation of what Governor Hochul was going to say, we have it now scheduled for tomorrow. We are meeting at 10 o'clock with Paul Pettit, and that'll be a Zoom meeting. So Governor Hochul did come out. Masks will be mandated in schools. Despite my August 13th plan and what our district plan was, that's kind of out the door. I'm not concerned with the social distancing piece. There are some school districts that it's more important to get everybody back so they can't have the 3 or 6 feet. We're okay with that. It's just going to be you know, disappointing that, you know, for most kids and teachers that we have to be wearing masks. My other concern is that because the FDA approved the Pfizer vaccine, she kind of went down the road of making sure all school employees are vaccinated. And then she also said, and there's going to be more guidance and policies coming very shortly. I'm concerned with that. I mean, masking is one thing, but I'm concerned. The other part of it is that there's a push out there that's saying that everything that she is saying, she can't enforce. And so is it now really up to the local health departments to tell us what to do? And do they have the authority to do that? So there's just multiple layers to all of this. So, you know, I have a feeling we're going to meet with Paul tomorrow. He's going to say, well, you heard the governor, you got to wear masks. And he's going to leave it at that.
Did she say you had to wear a mask to enter the building? Like, did it then, I didn't hear, like, all day. Like, she didn't give any guidance. She said you have to wear a mask to enter the school.
It's in school, but again, then there's more policies and things coming down the road very shortly.
Going to come in the next couple days or whatever. I don't know.
Right. So we are anticipating this. Obviously, you know, the district and we will follow what these mandates are. That's the other issue, is you have to be very careful with the wording. There's strongly recommended, there's guidance, there's you know, recommendations. Yeah, I recommend that you cook your meat to 350 degrees, but okay, I'm gonna eat it raw. Like, I don't have to follow that.
Right.
If it's a mandate or an executive order, that's what we need to follow.
Right.
But if it's, you know, strongly, highly encouraged and recommended to wear masks, you know, we can stick with our original plan.
Leave it up to some local control and local judgment.
Right.
Good.
So
there's a group of parents in Avon that are retained a lawyer that they're going to start.
Right. But again, you know, it's
mandates are not a law, and that's where it's going. Is that?
But the problem is towards the end of last year, and you know I was upset because I had said we had our kids 6 feet socially distanced. When they sat on their desk, they could take their masks off. Well, that went away towards the end of last year. It was masks are mandated no matter what. And I know that there were a couple districts that said, no, we're not going to do that. And within 24 hours, they got a letter from the state saying that we're going to shut you down and we're going to withhold state aid. You know, I certainly can't put our district in that type of you know, situation. So, you know, if it's a mandate and it's something that, you know, we need to follow, we're going to have to. You know, again, there's, you know, do we have to follow a mandate? What does that mean? What's a recommendation? Oh, this is just guidance. It's very muddied waters when all this stuff comes out. So I have a feeling tomorrow that, you know, Paul's just going to say, hey, well, you heard what the governor said. I don't think he's going to turn around and make any earth-shattering decision of let's not follow that, or hey, you know, do what you want. You know, it's really going to come down to, you know, her and you know, how that's all written when it comes out. You know, she did say that, you know, masks were required, and there's going to be a mask mandate for all schools in Western New York, or you know, New York State. So it'll just be interesting on how that comes out. Will it be an executive order like, you know, Governor Cuomo's executive orders? That stuff we have to follow. But we'll just have to see the wording.
She can't do executive orders anymore though, because the emergency powers are gone.
Correct. So,
that's
but
why she's pushing it to the health departments.
But the issue comes in is there's thoughts out there that if this continues to go the way it is, like Erie County is in a red, are they going to declare that an emergency? And now all of a sudden she has all these executive orders. It's just
right. So if
this is what keeps me up at night.
If they declare a state of emergency again and bring back that level, then she would have that option and authority.
Correct.
But I mean, she doesn't get it instantly. That it has to actually go through legislation that they have to grant their emergency powers. So it's not something that she can just say, oh, it's red, I got emergency powers. There's a process that does have that.
The other thing that Christine and I looked into, behind the scenes, is the CDC came out with all these recommendations. It is strongly encouraged that students and staff wear masks in school. Okay, well, what if we don't? We called our insurance company and I said, if we don't go by some of these recommendations, does it put the district liable? Let's say a kid gets sick and unfortunately, or a staff member gets really sick and now they're in the hospital or something even worse happens. Could they come back and say, well, the school district didn't follow the recommendations of the CDC and what, all this other stuff? Could we be held liable for that? I mean, that's how bad this stuff gets. So there's just a lot to this.
I think that'd be pretty difficult to prove. You didn't catch it at Walmart versus your.
Well, correct.
So
I think it would just show that the district is following to some degree in your publication that you're following some
language said we strongly recommend it.
Well, and I was very careful on how I worded that because, I did have some community members say, how come you're not following the guidance from the CDC? And I said, I am, because I'm highly recommending that students wear masks in school, but it's not required. And so it's just a play on words, and that's where it gets muddied. And so, I'm hopeful by the end of this week, because some school districts start next week, that we actually get really clear explanations of what all of this is. And again, the biggest thing for us is having to wear masks all day long.
So John, if parents are obviously probably watching this and wanting to know what direction the district is heading in, would you recommend that they give you through the end of this week to trying to iron some of these things out and to get more answers? Because right now we're still in we're in the unknown. So if someone was to call tomorrow and ask you, you really wouldn't have much of an answer, whereas if people just hold off until next week, you might have a little more guidance to give.
Yes, like I said, I'm meeting with Paul tomorrow and the other superintendents. Like I said, I'm assuming that he will tell us to, this is what, Kathy Hochul says. Hopefully by the end of the week, we do get, and again, when you say guidance, people think, well, that's just guidance. You don't have to follow it. But when you read the guidance and it's 22 pages long, it really is a play on words. Last year there was that big issue about, is it 6 feet or a mask? Or is it 6 feet and a mask and a plastic divider? Are these ands or ors? And we fight over it. So I am hopeful by next Monday, I can definitively send out a letter to our community saying, this is our plan. And really it's going to be mask or no mask. So, our plan is out there. I do think it's going to change, where my letter will say, despite what our original intentions were, and giving the parents and the students and the faculty and staff the choice, we're going to have to wear a mask on the first day of school.
I hope that's not the case.
And if it is, it's not because of us. So something that we're just going to have to follow.
More to come. All right.
Fun stuff.
Anything else, John?
I'm good.
All right, on to new business. Be it resolved that items 8.2 through 8.10 be approved via consent agenda. Can I get a motion?
So moved. I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. All right, 8:10. Okay, this is for the code of conduct. Be it resolved that the attached code of conduct be approved as written. Can I get a motion?
That was included in the
consent.
Oh, 811, I'm sorry. This is the goofy one, here. I don't mean to be goofy one, but this is.
That's why it's separate.
Yeah, I apologize. This is for the Area 1 Director of NISBA. I believe we already looked at voting on Linda Hoffman back in May, I believe, or April. Since then, a new gentleman has gotten enough petitions signed or something along those lines. His name is Matthew Kennedy from North Tonawanda. It's up to us tonight to vote on one or the other to be a representative for NISBA Area 1 Director for a 2-year term. Each of us are, I believe, entitled 1 vote to cast. I'm not sure exactly the process of this, but I think I'll just say for Linda Hoffman, who was our previous person that we approved, and I think she actually did send her, not her resume, I guess her resume, I think we saw. It was pretty extensive. She's been in the game for a long time. This new gentleman, I don't think we have a lot of information to go off of. So for Linda Hoffman, yeah, go ahead.
Does that read each member school board? So were you saying that each of us gets an individual vote, or is it?
I thought
one?
each school board member is entitled
I
one.
think it's each member school board. So like we're a member
board
of
itself
this
votes for one of those people.
So we get 1 vote as.
I didn't close read that one,
And
man.
I think we already
Yeah,
did
it's a
for
board
this.
as a
Yeah,
whole.
So then we're just
you
good.
as a majority.
So we've
would-
already done it then? With
No, I
the-
think you as a board need to decide which person you would, so you would need it.
So did we
you know,
already?
4
We
votes.
did.
We did, but there was only
And
one person.
then we're rescinding that?
We
or
should have each gotten a
potentially-
letter from her, I believe, like in the mail.
Well, this
You
term
did go
starts
around.
January 1st, 2022.
So this is a future.
This is a
This vote is for
future.
the future.
Did we already nominate her though in that last meeting?
Yes.
And we need to discuss whether we want to rescind that nomination and go with the other, or?
I think the previous nomination was through December 31st, 2021.
Okay,
So this starts January 1st, 2022.
so this is a whole new deal.
All right.
Okay.
So,
We need to make a motion
yeah.
and then discussion. So I'll make a motion
Yeah.
to advance Linda Hoffman as our candidate to
Thanks, man.
represent us.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
So in discussion, I just say, I haven't heard anything from the other candidate.
Right.
We have
By
heard
discussion
from
as
Linda.
well, right? If you know.
No,
in the
this
future,
lady.
If he doesn't win, send out some information on yourself.
Well, that's just, this woman, I think, goes back to like 1984. She served on.
She sent the letter to
like
the school,
every-
and I think we got it individually.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's been on like every board that you can name, it seems like.
Only for that reason.
Yeah,
Right.
We don't
exactly.
know.
Yeah, she could be, yeah, a very
Go
bad
back.
person, but I hope that she's not.
Okay. Moving on.
Yeah. So, all in favor for Linda Hoffman is, okay, be it resolved that Linda Hoffman be elected as NISBA Area 1 Director for a 2-year term to run January 1st, 2022 through December 31st, 2023. Can I get a motion?
So I need that.
Yep, so can I get a second and we have discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Okay, looks like Linda Hoffman is going to be our area director. Linda. That was weird. Okay, communications, it looks like what I've got here is
Just what you have.
what I have. Discussion roundtable, I didn't think we had anything for tonight. Seems like we've had a lot of discussion tonight. On to personnel, be it resolved that items 11.2 through 11.20 be approved via consent agenda. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. So take us to the executive session. Yes, it does. That takes us to executive session, or executive session. Be it resolved that the Board of Education enter into executive session at 8:04 to discuss the employment of a particular employee Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, on to executive session.
Are we in here?